All right, well, it is officially a few minutes after 12, so Happy New Year, NACDEP members and guests. Calling this NACDEP New Year to order here. Really excited to see everybody. We hope that this event will be the spark for your new year of 2022. I'm Melinda Grismer. I am a regional and community development specialist for the Purdue Center for Regional Development, and also the current president of NACDEP, the National Association of Community Development Extension Professionals. So officially welcome. We're so glad that you're here. I have lots of different toys, so you're going to be hearing things like this to get your attention today. So just be ready, be on your toes, because anything can happen. So the purpose of today's event is for us to start our new community development and community and economic development year off together with a bang by sharing collective successes that we've all achieved in 2021. So today we'll hear from 8 of our 2021 NACDEP award winners. We'll also hear about how to submit presentation proposals, which are not due for another week. We've got another week to submit for the conference coming up in June. So we'll hopefully be your inspiration for submission today. You'll also hear about nominations for the 2022 awards. We're going to go over some detail on both of those, so you'll feel really prepared, and you've got a month still before you have to submit award nominations. So you really have a long time. You have plenty of time to do both. And then we're also going to learn more about our very own CD extension library. So we have several guests from different committees that are going to jump in at different times and tell us some different things. So hopefully it'll be engaging, exciting, and also informative. And we're really glad you're here. Thank you for spending the afternoon with us. I'd like to thank the NACDEP Marketing Committee and the Awards and Recognition Committee for making this happen. It's just been amazing that over the space of just a couple months, they've pulled this together for our membership. So big round of applause. Yay! All right. So without too much further ado, I'd like to jump into this. Let's see. So our agenda for the day, like I've mentioned, introduction to the program, then we're going to have lightning rounds is what we're calling them. After the lightning rounds, we'll have a Q&A. So after all 8 presenters, we'll have a chance for you to ask questions. So definitely make notes of any questions that you had during these presentations so that you'll remember what your questions were at the end of all 8 presentations. So that's important. Definitely do that. Also try to keep your mics muted the whole time. We have a couple mic monitors out there as well as chat monitors, but try to keep that muted. Nobody wants to have a faux pas happen in the middle of our meeting. So just try to be respectful. That we're all probably Zoom pros at this point, so it almost goes without saying, but just as a reminder. And again, as you're listening today, just try to consider these ideas that you're going to hear and potential submission ideas and how they could fit into your own institution, whether that be 1862, 1890, or 1994. All land grant institution submissions are welcome, and we just want you to know that you're welcome, and also think about how you could uniquely contribute to NACDEP with your ideas and insights this year. So we're really excited to hear all that we're going to hear today. So after the lightning rounds, we'll have a facilitated discussion about submissions, like I talked about, the proposals, the nominations, and the CD extension library. And then we'll go into our regional meetings. Before we do, we have links. I think you've all been sent links for your regional meetings, but we'll also be able to drop those in the chat before we get out of this Zoom meeting. So you'll have both the email in your inbox from your wonderful regional rep, and you'll also have it in the chat from this meeting, so you'll know exactly where you're going after our NACDEP New Year session. So I think without too much further ado, we have 8 presenters. They are listed here in order. and their slides are in order. I'm going to ask each of those presenters to just tell me next real briefly, and I will advance your slides for you just to make it easy so we don't have a lot of fumbling between presentations. So I think we're good to go. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Emily, our wonderful marketing chairperson, is looking at that chat and responding to those. So please do that. And without further ado, Brian, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Melinda. So I don't need 5 minutes. I can tell you this really quickly. So lightning rounds, here's my first slide. There we go. So our future, I don't remember what it was, our future online. So what this was, just really quickly, was a series of teachings, workshops, research-based, andragogy approaches, really. Pedagogy is what we often talk about when we're talking about teaching. But adult learners, Malcolm Knowles, 1980, whatever that was, really looked at a different approach for adults. We like context. We like to have things situated so that we can understand them better. And I look at both my undergrad and my graduate students, as well as, of course, my extension audiences, even some of the teen 4-H members, as I was a 4-H educator for years, as adult learners. And so what I did was I put together a way to do that, and to try to reach people via the distance. Some of you have sat in on seminars with me, a number of you. And so thank you. I hope what I shared was helpful. Next slide. That was kind of the bullets that I wanted to share. That was my objective. And these, so I just listed these because it was they're still out there and available, and they're still being looked at by some folks. They still are helpful. I have found, actually, we're not post-COVID, but with hybrid classes, some of these things that I put together for strictly online engagement, it's all about engagement in our teaching, really connecting with our audiences. Just Google Brian Raisin on YouTube, and you'll find them, and hopefully they may be helpful. Next slide. And the bottom line, this is it. Have fun. So I spent 2020 and 2021 mostly teaching in shorts, not pajamas like some colleagues I heard about. But shorts, absolutely, and sandals, whatever, in my library, in my front room, and it was a blast. But here's my note for anybody who's thinking about applying for an award. This is actually the most important thing I want to say. I don't like awards. I'm not big on recognition. I don't care about it. But what I heard, I think it was David Civitola, who's our Ohio CD leader, state leader, said, don't apply for the recognition. Apply so that other people can hear about your work, and then they can take it and use it, mold it, manipulate it, adapt it to their environment, to their needs, and helps them reach their audiences better, more effectively, helps their audiences make their missions. And so that's what, hey, great. So that's the reason I would say apply for awards so that you can share good work and we can better reach our extension audiences. Thank you, Melinda, and thanks everybody.
Thank you so much, Brian. Crystal, take it away.
Thank you, everyone. Apologize if there's background noise. There's a helicopter that decided to just hover where I am. So thank you for that. So what I'm going to share a little bit about is a project called Food for a Long Life. And the project is a joint collaboration between faculty and staff at both Virginia Cooperative Extension and The Ohio State University. Funding for this project came from USDA, the Children, Youth, and Families at Risk funding program. And at its core, the project is based in community-based participatory action research with the focus of using intergenerational strategies to accomplish 3 goals: increase healthy food access, healthy food consumption, and education for children and their families in 2 communities. So next slide. Wanted to share as well, this is a team award, and so I'd like to acknowledge the teammates. I'm the one speaking, but this is absolutely a team project. So my co-PI at The Ohio State University is Dr. Shannon Jarrett. Awesome extension agents who lead the work on the ground, Karen Tanner in Virginia and Jenny Bob in Ohio. And then Jill Narr, who's at App State, who helped to coordinate all of the various moving parts and pieces with a project this large, especially involving 2 states. So next slide, please. So I'll talk a little bit about access and consumption. So we know that access is an issue, and it was an issue at the start of the project in near East Columbus, and that's a section of Columbus where this project was implemented. As well as in Lynchburg, Virginia, we knew that low food access was an expressed issue and an expressed need already from the community, knowing that 1 in 5 children were documented in Columbus as being food insecure, 1 in 4 Lynchburg residents, and that both communities had lower food security than communities in their respective states. Low access to grocery stores. This is things we know about, right? Many of us know about, and corner markets with low levels of produce and nutritious food available. So this was the context. Next slide, please. And so what did we want to do? What did we seek to do? So we wanted to really partner and co-create with the communities an approach. And we wanted to leverage some things that we knew and had done before. My co-PI, Dr. Jarrett, is a gerontologist with expertise in intergenerational strategies, and we had done some work before and saw some best practices in that space. I was keenly interested in food access, and so we looked at an opportunity to see where that might marry up in co-creation with communities. So next slide. Many of you are probably already familiar with this, so we won't spend a lot of time here, but we really wanted to ground all of the work in a community-based participatory action research approach with co-creating and co-identifying the issue. Of course, it's a funded project, and so to say we went with nothing to the community and just had complete open ears is untrue. We had the framework and parameters that we had already told the funder we would do, but we did use this approach within that framework and parameters. And so next slide, please. Why we chose an intergenerational approach within this work? Well, we knew that we wanted to build on the research that told us that utilizing and engaging the talents of each generation, and we were using, we were partnering, with preschool education sites. So with the younger generation being preschoolers and the adult population primarily being older adults, although we did engage some adults who had documented disabilities, if you will, at an adult day site. And so really leveraging the talents of both generations and coming together and doing that work. We also knew from those 2 communities that if you teased apart by age demographic, those most impacted by food access and food insecurity, it was younger children and older adults. So next slide, please. So what did we do? We went into programming, but we didn't do any of that until we spent a year connecting with partners, stakeholders in the communities, and doing a lot of listening to say, by the end of this project, what do we want to have accomplished? And then what do we want to measure? And then to back out from that, how do we want to implement? So programming in Virginia, next slide. So I just focus on one for the sake of time and just share a little bit about what happened in Virginia, because as you imagine, we're connecting with communities. So there were some things similar and of course some things different because context matters. And so in Virginia, we had 4 sites, 2 intergenerational sites that primarily served older adults and 2 preschool sites. And in those cases, we had 11 classrooms, 11 independent single generation, as I'll say it, classrooms that received nutrition education lessons. And out of the 11, 3 also then had an additional lesson that was with both generations together. So pre-COVID, they physically came together once a week in a shared space. So the the preschoolers got to travel to the adult day sites and have a shared experience, shared facilitated intergenerational experience around nutrition together. So next slide. So listening and partnering with the community and what that looked like, that's how we did some of the single generation classes, because the community said even if we couldn't do intergenerational for as many of the youth, they still wanted those preschoolers to receive nutrition education. And that's why we did more classrooms beyond what we could do with an intergenerational strategy. We also leveraged family nights. So there were times where families came together and engaged in activities, communication strategies to families, various techniques, and then we added snack bags and market days. So there's some photos there of when the preschoolers were able to come and choose, from what was there, choose what they wanted to take home in their market bag. So they had their own farmers market days, so to speak, at their centers, and they got to choose what they wanted to take home. Next slide, please. So this is a photo of some volunteers at one of the sites. This was at a local church that learned about the project, wanted to engage in the project, and so they helped do some food collection, food donations, and packing. Part of the what you see here is a photo of knowing when the students were going to go out for the long winter break and the spring break, ensuring that there were bags. So there were additional snack bags that were sent home to sort of accommodate some of those times when they would be out of the center and thus not receiving breakfast and lunch and snacks at the centers as they would. Next slide, please. All right, then COVID hit and we had to pivot. So one of our sites, which had 278 or so students that we were serving at the Head Start Center, that, of course, closed its doors. And so we had to figure out a way to pivot. And us being able to deliver virtually was not something that could happen. And so our grant hired staff coached and trained some of the preschool site staff, which they had been doing anyway in order to have sustainability. So those preschool teachers started taking the curriculum and teaching it online. The second preschool site, Rivermont Early Learning Center, closed permanently. So we shifted, we adapted, we were going to go virtual. We bought all these things to do an outdoor classroom, and then they closed permanently. So the next pivot, next slide, please, was we had to go, they just decided they weren't going to fund, they couldn't sustain the center at all. And so we found a new site. And thanks to our awesome folks on the ground and part of that community-based approach, within a week, another site was able to be identified. And awesome bonus, that site that was identified also is a satellite food bank location. Next slide. So all the photos that you saw before were pre-COVID, but post-COVID, some of what had been able to happen by partnering with a site that had both a satellite food bank location and a preschool site, we were able to continue and expand on the nutrition education with another group of preschoolers, as well as leverage what the group was already doing with the food pantry. We were able to use some of the funding to have food shelves built. We were able to expand the number of families that were able to be served by the food pantry. And before we came with our project, it was a distribution site. When we came with the project, we were able to not only expand the number of families who were served, but extend it to have educational opportunities and food demonstration sites. So next slide, Melinda. I think we're nearing the end. So we'll go through all of these, but we definitely leverage technology throughout the project. And Melinda, if you want to just flip through, we use various technology channels by having a designated person, and the funding was optimal because we could pay a small amount for someone to tend to the technology. And so we were able to stay connected with community and partners and families through the use of technology and continuing to keep people updated. So our takeaway, community-based might be difficult, but it was definitely the right approach. A key learning, not all partners need to be involved in everything, but keeping them involved throughout is really important. Flexibility, have we not learned anything? It's critical. And that our university partners, when they're involved, have to be there if you're doing community work. This is NACDEP, this is work we do, so we sort of understand those things. But this is our Food for Long Life project, and we wrapped up the funding in August, and I got word yesterday from a Virginia-based extension agent that things are going so well in the community. Their community has really taken ownership, and so I'm excited to talk about the sustainability of the project at a later time, but that wouldn't have happened had we not had them engaged throughout all parts of the process. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Nice. Woohoo. All right. Next one we have Claire and Dwayne are up next.
So it's just me, Dwayne T. James. Claire was not able to make it due to a last minute family emergency. So everything's fine, but something came up with the family. And of course, that takes precedence. So my name is Dwayne T. James. I am with MU Extension. I'm here to talk about the Neighborhood Leadership Fellows Program. Advance the slide. Neighborhood Leadership Fellows, we're building equity through civic leadership. Go ahead and advance, please. So the question was always, where is the leadership in North St. Louis? Instead, we changed that question as who is actually sitting at the decision-making tables that affect North St. Louis? And so next slide. And so there is disparities in St. Louis as there are disparities in a lot of our cities, areas and regions as well. And so looking at a study, there's this Del Mar divide. There's this dividing line between North St. Louis and South St. Louis. And if you're looking at regional commissions and major boards, you saw that out of 105 commissioners, only 8 lived north of Del Mar, with 97 living south of Del Mar. So if they're making decisions that are based off of for the entire region, but they're not familiar with that geography, there is a disparity and an inequity that actually already exists. Next slide. And so working with these colleagues, we developed an advanced leadership training program called the Neighborhood Leadership Fellows Program. And so it's a partnership of not only MU Extension, but also the University of Missouri St. Louis and the St. Louis Promise Zone, which is part of our St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. Next slide. And so who do we actually target? We target the residents in the St. Louis Promise Zone. So the St. Louis Promise Zone is a federally designated area. In 2015, you see where the St. Louis is, and you see pretty much a vertical line or a horizontal line there. That's the Del Mar divide, and it goes in North St. Louis City, and then also North St. Louis County. And so the goals of the Promise Zone, which are increase the economic activity, reduce serious and violent crime, improving the educational outcomes, creating a sustainable mixed income communities, improving health and wellness, and increasing workforce readiness. And when we started this, the representative from the Economic Development Partnership that a lot of the times we provide funding and we provide services and we provide energy towards the built environment, but how often do we actually provide those same resources towards the lived environment, towards the people that are actually in there? So the St. Louis Promise Zone built up that capacity and worked with the residents in the Promise Zone. Next slide. And so it's an application process. The first year we put it out there, we had close to 100 people that actually applied that first year, which just showed that the need was actually there. So from 80 to 100 over the last 4 years, we interview around 40 individuals. We select up to 25 individuals, and then the training is 9 months, 1 Friday, 1 Saturday a month, going from January through September, and then we circle around and start again in November with the applications, the interviews, and the selection process. And so we're actually starting our 5th cohort this next January. The incentives is a free training program to the participant. We work to secure the funding, secure the grants, and we actually provide them stipends. So often when you're working in leadership areas, you actually charge a fee for that person to be a part of your program. So this actually provides a free opportunity for this education. And then we provide a stipend as well, understanding that there are lived experiences or lived circumstances that might actually deter people from actually participating as well, even if it is free. So the $2,000 helps with advanced training. Actually have to get out of work and you're not able to take vacation, it helps offset some of those fees. Or if you're talking about meeting with other neighborhood leaders and you want to do that coffee or want to do that lunch, sometimes your economic ability doesn't always allow that. So this provides that opportunity. It also provides with mentoring and networks. Sometimes we have regional leaders and regional institutions that are doing this work. We bring that to the cohort. And so you're developing that type of connections and networks. And then it's networks with your additional cohorts or with the alumni as well. Sometimes as leaders, we work so hard and we have our head down that we don't know that there's another leader, another community resident, another advocate that is a block away or 2 blocks away. We're bringing all that collective experience and that collective energy into one room, into one cohort, into one program. And then the outputs is policy opportunity projects. And so projects are wonderful. We're getting to the policy. How do we actually make things sustainable? How do we make sure that those inequities are addressed for generations and generations to come? And then we also work with the fellows to actually develop a 10-year personal leadership plan, however that might actually to see not only 1 year, but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. What does it actually look? Sometimes myself as a leader, we're doing the work so much that we don't actually plan the work. So let's just go ahead and put it on paper, understanding it's flexible, understanding that it might actually change, but then looking at it from a Clifton strengths-based analysis. So what are your strengths actually telling you that you're good in leading and how you're going to lead? Next slide. This is the schedule. So it's January through September, everything from an introductory section to actually talking about the strength-based leadership, talking about the history of segregation and racism that's in St. Louis. If we're going in and working with communities and we're going in and working through policy, let's understand the policies that are actually making these inequities in place. I'm going in strategic doing. So how do you go in and strategically plan, strategically do the work of a policy opportunity? Looking at communication, how do you tell your story? How do you communicate that to the decision makers? Looking at boards and commissions, how is money actually working through this region? Understanding how development actually takes place in this area. Looking at local and state government and understanding the differences between a county-led government from a municipal-led government. When do you have to take things to the state level? And then looking at your leadership plan and how does that actually work? And looking at this from a collective standpoint. So when you're talking about an inequity in health, how does that actually factor into education? How does that actually factor into the economic vitality of the community? How is all this intertwined? So we can talk about it from a collective basis as we're trying to do the work on a singular basis as well. And so we meet one Friday afternoon and one all-day Saturday a month. It's more than 100 hours of curriculum, but there's always work in between times to develop in the team, to do the leadership plan as well. Next slide. Wonderful. Just keep hitting. These is going to pop up. So we're addressing regional inequities. We're amplifying that leadership voice, having that decision-making table. We're increasing that civic engagement. Keep going. Leadership collaboration is there as well. So these are our goals and our objectives, and we've had some success. And I would say some success because we're talking about years and decades of inequities that we're actually working through. But we've had nonprofits that are actually starting up that actually address some of these regional inequities. We've had our fellows actually get seats at the decision-making table. Some ran and weren't successful. Others weren't successful and ran again. Others basically ran because they're actually a cohort is working with them as well. That increased civic engagement of understanding why votes actually matter and what does that actually look like. Collaborating with other leaders in the area, said I have this problem in my community. Is there someone in my cohort can actually address that, work with that, and actually help me with that? And so when I'm making a decision in front of the decision-making board, I have cheerleaders, I have support that's with me, that's actually working on that as well. Amplifying that leadership voice and understanding that your voice actually matters and how does it actually work? Everything from a podcast to a Ken-like documentary that's actually talking about the first historically Black community in Missouri, and then actually going in front of our governor and actually showcasing that work as well. So all of this is in action and continuing to be in action. So our first cohort is still doing the work and helping and building upon all the existing cohorts as well. Next slide. And this is that social capital. I always love this because I was that neighborhood advocate, that neighborhood leader that would go into a meeting and look around and say, do I know anyone that's in this space? Who is actually on my side? When I say something, am I going to get that person that's nodding their head? And so when you're going to these events and you're looking across the room and you're knowing someone because they're an NLF alumni, they're part of your cohort, or you're calling them up and saying, look, I just need some support. Can you show up? Yeah, I'm there. And it's that type of energy and that type of excitement that's building that social capital and building that network. So you're knowing that you're not doing this work alone and in a silo anymore. Next slide. This is our first cohort. As I said, that we're actually starting our 5th cohort next week. And so you can see all the smiles after 100 hours of curriculum, after meeting 9 months out of the year. And of course, with COVID, we had to pivot a little bit. So we went online through Zoom. I would just say our participation numbers did not decline during that time. So that just talks about the energy and the excitement. Of course, everyone wanted to be in the same room, in the same space. So as if they were working with policy groups, they actually worked in smaller groups and to do that work, to build that energy. And now when things basically were able to open up, they got together and built that energy and the excitement as well. So this is our information. Our website is there, and then reach out to Claire or reach out to myself as well for more information. Thank you so very much.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Great work. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing. All right, Marilyn, you're up next.
All right, thank you, Melinda. Okay. So whenever you're ready. Okay, I'm Marilyn Schlake, and I'm an extension educator with the Rural Prosperity Nebraska with Nebraska Extension. And we had the team award for community development, and these are the members of our teams. We have an economic developer on the team presently, and I'll talk a little bit about the role that she does. But I'll be remiss if I didn't say there were a lot of people that helped develop this program back in 2014, and we're carrying on that legacy, adapting it. And as you work with every community, you have to adapt anyway. So we're in the process of always changing and creating the best outcome for the communities in which we work with. Next slide. And the program that we work with is called Entrepreneurial Community Action Project. Go ahead, next slide. And what ECAP is, it's a very community-focused, very grounded type of intervention, or just working with building the capacity of the community, looking at their unique characteristics. Look, what's back? One more, there we go. And looking at the community assets and the potential opportunities that they have for growth, building that community capacity and creating that awareness. And what we provide for the community is a loose strategic plan that they can use for applying for federal or state grants, for guiding their community. It's customized to fit the community, however, what they decide is best for their community. We do, we consider about 360-degree surveys. We have a community-wide survey. We will also do a alumni survey, and we'll also do a high school youth survey to give us feedback about their perceptions of their community. And then we bring all that data together and we have community conversations, 4 to 5 different conversations to get through that, learning about the community, looking at the assets, and then putting together their strategic vision and goals. Forward, please. So the process is we start with a community assessment. We worked together with Scott Chasden out of Minnesota to develop a community readiness tool. And we use that with the community to really determine, are they ready for change? Are there issues that they need to address first? Have they practiced or have they been successful at actually implementing change already? And if there's some areas that we need to address first as we start working with the community, it gives us insight as where they are. And it also gives them some affirmation of how they feel about their community should they want to go forward with the ECAP process. If they want to go forward, we help them develop a steering team that's representative of the community. And they help guide us on how they want to have that survey administered in the community, what issues, topics they want to have on that survey. Are there some conversations happening in the community that they need to get feedback on, such as people are talking about, we need a new community center, we need a new pool, we need to have a new fire hall. So it gives them feedback to say, is the community ready to address this issue and maybe put it on a ballot later on. And as I said, we have the alumni and youth surveys. These are optional if the community wants to have these conducted as well. We then hold the community engagement sessions. There's 4 to 5, depending on how fast the community goes through the discussions. And if there's some underlying issues that we need to be addressed, that kind of we pull back and say, let's talk about this and let's go through it first before moving forward. Step 5, we create that action plan, or the community creates the action plan. They start communicating that out, getting more people popcorning out into the community, getting more people involved. And then we work with the community afterwards to see how they are doing with the implementation, if there's things that need to be done differently, and just help support them as they move forward with their action plans. Next slide, please. So these are the data tools that we do use. We bring in obviously the demographics, looking at the census data, population trends. In Nebraska, many of our rural communities have lost generational population. And so it is an issue that we are trying to reverse slowly, but in some communities, we are having some good success with that too. But becoming aware of what those trends are and how they can address those. The discovery tool, we look at the ECAP characteristics, and I'll talk about those a little bit. That's based on our research. Look at the social capital around the community projects, and then entrepreneurship as a way to help support the economic structure of the community. For the alumni survey, we're asking why they left and what is their impressions of the community now that they're away from the community, and then what would it take to bring them back to the community? Is it housing? Is it job opportunities? Is it family? What is it that's going to bring them back? And then what skills do they have that the community can use as a recruitment tool, but also build upon those skills that they may have that the community needs, and try to bring those two together and get those individuals thinking about returning to the community. And then on the flip side, we look at the youth and say, what are your aspirations for the future? Do you want to stay in your community? What do you need if you stay in your community? What is the overall impressions of the community? And what are their interests? Do they want to start a business? Another thing that we're seeing in the rural areas is the lack of trades. And I mean, it takes a while for someone to maybe get their plumbing fixed, or to have someone come in, an electrician, to do the work. So the trades are becoming very critical in some of our rural communities. So if we can look at having the youth maybe build those businesses, or at least transition into an existing business for the future, so that we can sustain some of those critical businesses for that community. Next slide, please. So the 8 characteristics that we look at, go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Melinda, are looking at that sense of belonging, that social aspect of the community. We look at the community vision, the leadership capacity of both informal and formal leadership within the community. What is that sense of place? And is the community ready for change? Do they have this culture of change? If not, can the communities develop that? And so we talk about what it is to belong to that community, and how we can create that sense of belonging and heighten that sense of place within the community. And then we also look at some of the basic infrastructures that we need for a community that's ready to grow. Entrepreneurial support systems. Do you have the capital, the capacity to support those budding entrepreneurs? Education workforce. Do you have youth that are wanting to build a business? Do you have entrepreneurship education within the community, within the schools? Do you have workforce education for those existing businesses and the owners themselves? infrastructure, that basic needs that the community has that's working with the civic government. And then, of course, broadband, the adoption, the usage, the connectivity, and above all, right at most of the communities is communication. As many of the communities have not necessarily kept up with a lot of the community or technology change, but the citizens are. They're getting all their information on their phones, but if that information isn't available from the local government, they aren't using Facebook. So how do you connect the people that are making the decisions within the community to the residents, so there's transparency going back and forth, and people have that greater sense of belonging to the community? Next slide, please. So community outcomes. When we submitted the grants, we were working, and still are working, with an economic developer, Susan Norris, out of Pierce County. And she provided us with a lot of the outcomes that are taking place within Plainview. Since we don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to focus on this one community. So if you go ahead and go to the next slide. So we started with Plainview back in 2018. And as a result, this is the latest information that we have from the community. 18 new businesses. They had a lot of closures downtown of their existing storefronts and were run down. So they have rehabbed their downtown with DTR grants. They have 12 empty buildings that have been sold and occupied, 22 new business owners. They have transitioned businesses. They have 17 full-time new jobs, 32 part-time jobs, and 11 jobs retained, a new dental clinic, a new mental health clinic, pharmacy transition, a new daycare business, and they're working on completing their park revitalization. They received over 100, let's say, I think it's almost $2 million in outside grants, which is including revolving loan funds to help their businesses in the industry. They have set up a new housing division with 4 new townhomes, DTR funding to rehab the downtown, 2 new apartment complexes. Go ahead to the next slide. And then we also have these indirect outcomes where people are becoming more engaged in the community. New leaders are stepping up. We're having adult and youth leadership classes happening right now, new technical assistance happening for the business owners, community attractions are happening during the summer, weekly community events that are small, but it brings the community together. And what we're seeing, this community, unlike some of the other small ones, they had an increase in population of 36 new residents, which isn't a lot, but of a town of 1,200, that is significant. And which is really cool too, is their median age decreased from 46.7 age to 40.1. So they have a lot of families coming in with these new housing subdivisions and townhomes. Next slide, please. So these are the communities that we have been working with or are currently working with at this point. So Creighton, Pierce, Osmond, Hayter are all in the same county. We have covered just about every county or community in Pierce County. And Atkinson is where our new extension educator had moved to. So she's working with that community. Auburn, we just finished up, and we're going to be working into now the action planning stage. And then we also have a special grant that we worked with Susan to go ahead and take what we did in Pierce and move it into Madison County and work with 5 communities there in 2022. So we are just starting that process right now. Interestingly, I just learned Hadar, our community of only 280, we did an ECAP Light process with them over the summer. And I just found out that after 2 years, they're willing to move on a new subdivision that they've been holding off on, but decided the time is now, because not only did they go through the ECAP and learn some opportunities that are available, but we're also partnering with a land use consultant called 5 Rules Planning that is giving them insights on how to go ahead and go with this subdivision, put together TIF grants. So it almost will double the population of this small community. They're right outside in Norfolk. There's a lot of pressure for growth. And so they want to be able to do this intelligently to grow their community. So it'll be an 80 house subdivision coming into this community. And part of it, they don't have any water. It's all well water. So now they're going to have to, really put some infrastructure into that community and grow. So that's really exciting for them to do that. Next slide, please. So this is our contact information. If you want to know more about the ECAP, just give us a holler. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Marilyn. A lot of great outcomes. So nicely done. Okay, let's go on to Amanda.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Amanda Ali, and I'm the data scientist for the Rural Online Initiative. Next slide, please. So just a brief context of our program, we were funded by the Utah legislature in 2018 as a capacity building program, and our overall goal was to strengthen the economies of rural Utah communities through remote work opportunities. So we started with our remote work professional course, but as you can see from our diagram here, since then we've expanded to include several other courses under our initiative, some of which we've already piloted. But our two primary courses, those in red, our professional course and then our leader course, which we started in 2020. And both of these are certificate courses. So our professional course targets rural residents and it provides them with the skills needed for remote employment. And then our leader course targets organizational or business leaders, and it provides them with the training on best practices for creating remote work environments and then managing and leading hybrid and remote teams. And so both of these courses target increasing employment opportunities in rural Utah. Next slide, please. So right now, we're currently working on our annual report for 2021, but we just wanted to share a few of our metrics. So far, we have 282 graduates who found remote jobs and 25 new remote positions created in several organizations. And so our goal for this year is to get to 400 job placements for our professional course and then 225 job creations or conversions for our leader course. Next slide, please. And so in a nutshell, that's our program. And with that, on behalf of the RI team, we'd just like to thank everyone for the opportunity to talk a little bit about our program and for receiving this award. Next slide, please. And so if you are interested in learning more about the program, I'd highly suggest looking at our short documentary film. It gives further insights into how we started, and it also talks about some of our students and their experiences with finding remote work and being able to still live in rural Utah and benefit from well-paying jobs. And then on our website, we have all the information about the different courses that we offer. So I can put those links in the chat as well, just in case anyone is interested. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And just so everyone knows, we'll be sharing the slide deck after this. So all of the great content that you've been seeing, you'll be able to receive in your inboxes as well. All right, Parker.
Thank you. Next slide, please. My name is Parker Jones, and I work for MSU Extension as an innovation counselor. And I'm going to talk briefly about connecting entrepreneurial communities, a multi-state showcase for which we won the NACDEP Excellence in Teamwork Award. So the CEC conference brings together statewide experts in local governments, Chamber of Commerce, economic developers, and nonprofits to learn about entrepreneurial ecosystems in a model community. So we host a noon-to-noon conference within the downtown of a small business that is doing a good job of fostering entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial growth, and we host 25 plus breakout sessions within downtown businesses that relate to the overall concept that we're trying to educate on. So if we're trying to educate on the role of design in creating welcoming spaces, we'll host a session in a historic downtown location where the entrepreneur is there to speak about what they're doing. We program on that topic. And then you're also in a room full of folks from similar small towns who you can connect with during that session. So we try to break down the barriers that we might learn through the K through 12 school program of this person over here is the educator, you're a student, so you're going to sit in your chair and listen to this person talk at you, by designing really engaging programs across an area where we're trying to teach. The walking format is great as well because it helps folks connect with each other, share informally, deepen their knowledge on what they just learned. And it's a lot of fun. So we piloted this program in 2012 at Michigan State University. Since then, we've held 10 programs across communities in Michigan. We determine the programming that we use through a statewide extension team. We have youth entrepreneurship experts, small business counselors, tourism, educators, local government folks, land use planning folks. And then we also work with a local team, which we change each year based on where the conference is held. Tends to be local government, chamber, planners, sometimes nonprofits as well, so that we can lift up statewide programming, which is effective, and also talk about programming unique to this place where we're holding the conference to really engage folks. So since we launched it in 2012, this has been replicated or explored by 7 other extension services. So this photo that you see here is what the program looks like in a regular year. So you can see folks on the right walking through, this was downtown Ludington in 2019, see some of the innovative locations where we hold our program. I think that top one is within a garage. I taught in a coffee shop, teaching in restaurants. CrossFit gym was one of the places where we taught. And then we also hold different sessions as well, bring everyone together for a meal, have local government speaking, keynote entrepreneurs, and then informal networking time as well. However, 2020, 2021, 2022 as well, these are not normal years. So there was large demand for what we do. Entrepreneurs were pivoting their business models, suddenly seeing 90% drops in sales, very significant impacts. So we needed to reach them with programming, but we couldn't do this through the format that we had done before of an in-person conference. Next slide, please. So what we decided to do is work together as a network of folks who use this Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities conference model. We're all in a similar position. We all needed to reach our stakeholders. We were looking at doing this through some sort of virtual format. So we decided, hey, let's share the load. Let's lift up local, regional, statewide stories and programmings that work and do something unique together. So us at MSU Extension, North Dakota State University Extension, University of Minnesota Extension, South Dakota State University Extension, Penn State Extension, New Hampshire Extension, Nebraska Extension, Missouri Extension. We have a lot of partners. We decided to host a week of entrepreneurial ecosystem programming, 28 sessions over 5 days, a speaker coming from each one of the communities that we work in through Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities from each state. And we also shared functions for hosting an online conference. So us at MSU Extension, we host the registration, MSU, Nebraska Extension working on the evaluation, University of Minnesota hosting the website, Penn State, MU Extension, others working on marketing, so that we could offer something that wasn't just another online conference, but was something that was really dynamic that met the needs of all of our stakeholders. So we were able to reach 300 plus participants from over 28 states with this week of entrepreneurship program that we offered. Next slide, please. And the outcomes that we got were pretty significant through the evaluation. So 97% of attendees felt that they were able to apply the ideas or skills that they learned at the conference. Those who attended the networking session 95% strongly agreed or agreed that the connections that they formed through this online conference, multi-state, they could use these connections to apply information in their communities. We also were able to demonstrate clear knowledge gain in actually every one of the educational sessions which we offered. And next slide, please. And interestingly enough, we asked each attendee which actions they were going to take as a function of attending this conference. So we were able to log over 100 individual actions that folks intended to take as a function of attending the conference, such as developing Food and Ag Policy Development Council, connecting bike paths to downtown businesses, and other actions. So what we were able to learn from this multi-state initiative was that multi-state programming is effective in different communities. It's applicable. Networking works in this format across communities. So someone in Missouri and someone in Nebraska and someone in Michigan can be facing similar challenges and can come together to help support entrepreneurs in the same way, learn from each other. And that this programming helps to spur actions in the communities that we're active in. And 100% of folks who answered the question, would you attend this conference again, agreed or strongly agreed that they would. Next slide, please. So as a brief call to action, a welcome to join the collaboration if you're interested in exploring if the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities model is for you, or you're interested in learning about entrepreneurship programming in general. All of us together in this network, we host a peer learning group quarterly. So we exchange ideas, we network together, learn, and we talk about how to host a Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities conference, what some of the best practices are. So if you'd like to join this group, if you'd like to learn more information about the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities Conference, please email me at jonesb28@msu.edu. Thanks.
Very cool. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you. Hopefully you'll get some takers today. Thanks. All right, we have Hannah, who's up next.
All right. Hello, everyone. You can advance to the next slide. And one more, please. Perfect. Thank you. So as mentioned, my name is Hannah Wooten. I am an extension agent for the University of Florida IFAS Extension in Orange County. Orange County is the House of Mouse. Yes, that is where Disney is located. So we're right in the middle of the state in a very urban area. And I'm here to talk about two award-winning programs that I've engaged in, talking about an Educational Materials Award and then also an Innovation and Creativity Award. These are both individual awards that were very targeted to my hyper local audiences. But in the case of this Educational Material Award, for a YouTube video that has reached over 500,000 people that have watched it for an average of 5 minutes each, which is a long time in the world of social media. This is something that went far beyond my local community and really demonstrates what is possible through excellent extension programming and planning. So this YouTube video was a hydroponics video intended to support my hydroponics class attendees. We're just building a bucket, a really simple hydroponics method. And I wanted to encourage folks to be able to do this on their own without having to come back to a class. So I worked with the local government television programmers to make a video, and we put it out on YouTube, and it was something that went, it kind of exploded, and it, I guess, went viral. And it really showed that while I was just trying to support some class attendees, this was a method of communicating to new and diverse audiences while still supporting traditional extension clientele. I learned through this process that people were able to put the YouTube video in whatever language they wanted to, and that YouTube translates to something like over 50 different languages. It also allowed folks that have different abilities to be able to learn. So you can watch with closed captioning. You can engage different learning styles through these alternative techniques that are not just in the classroom or just through a virtual lesson. So this was highly successful. I think a lot of it had to do with my approach. And it was something, there's been a lot of amazing programs where there's multi-state teams. This was a team of a handful of people working with a specific goal. So it was our local government television folks and me and my lettuce and my bucket. And we were very strategic about showing the entire process from seed to harvest. And I think that's something that in a packaged in 8 minutes or less is something that is really popular right now in the world of social media, hence the reason it really exploded and went viral. I've seen successes far beyond just my own local community who has continued to use this resource, has continued to grow, where we've brought this project into schools. But this has been successful in the middle of Northern Canada, where curious folks have been looking for ways to grow plants easily in the dead of winter using artificial lights. And I have folks in India and Africa that have reached out to me to look at simple hydroponic methods to be able to grow food in areas and to develop their communities through food in areas that are not well suited for agriculture otherwise. So that was one little project that really went viral and continues to be available for people to engage in these lessons. But I'll talk to you about a program that was a little bit larger than just this viral YouTube video in my next slide with the Innovation and Creativity Award. So this one, it was a hydroponics in jail program. No need to sugarcoat it. This was a really incredible program, another very hyper local program where all of the partnerships were synergistic, and that was an important key to having a successful creative program, because sometimes when you start getting a little innovative and creative, your chances of success are questionable because you're not doing something that's been proven before. In this case, the local correctional facility had a greenhouse. They had it for many decades before I started working in extension. So they were familiar with therapy as a way to engage the female inmates who had fewer opportunities for educational development within the correctional office. Usually the programs go for the men because there are more men in the facility. It's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But the girls got to work in the greenhouse. The correctional facility had a desire to create something more formal in the form of a certificate of completion or something, so that these girls who are in the facility for 364 days or less can leave. It's just a blip in their life in the grand scheme of things. 1 year or less is not a ton of time. And if they can get back out there feeling inspired and equipped to be able to work at a local nursery, maybe start their own business, or even just work at a local garden center, then that was something desirable. And let's keep it real. I would tell these girls every single class, if you can just look at a plant and find some peace, then that is a benefit, just being able to look at the world a little bit differently. But in the case of this program, through excellent partnerships and multiple different pilot programs, we landed on a 5-day vocational training program to 15 female inmates where a deputy was always with me. And that deputy was specifically working to manage the greenhouse. So there's some key factors that if this is going to be replicated, you really need the right people in the right positions, and you need to get along with them. It's a lot of synergy to make these things a success. Over the multiple years that we ran this program, we had 117 women earn a certificate of completion. The greenhouse would sell over $9,000 of produce annually to their cafeteria, which would then serve this fresh produce to the inmates. In some cases, it would just go to correctional officers if they didn't have the quantity to supply to the 1,000 to 2,000 person inmate population. We had successes go beyond that, which it is really hard to track these girls once they out, but some of them track us down and let us know what's going on. And we know for sure for now a few years that one girl has started her microgreens hydroponic business, and she continues to be successful in Charleston, South Carolina, in a different area from where I'm in trouble, and where she's really shown some great successes. We see evidence of other smaller success for these girls. Again, big challenges getting that long-term impact, but we know that for some of these folks who do keep in touch, that it truly life-changing program, and it was for me as well as an instructor. So thank you. You can find my email on the next slide if you have any questions or anything about it. And thank you so much for recognizing these accomplishments and giving awards to so many worthy programs. Thank you so much, and looking forward to hearing from more of you.
Awesome, Hannah. So interesting. Actually, it's kind of interesting because in Orange County, it was the first time I ever knew anything could be grown hydroponically. As a little girl going through Epcot in the same county, they used to show that technique. So anyway, very fascinating. Thanks for sharing. Lauren.
All right.
Okay,
Hi, everyone.
Yes.
I'm Lauren Princeau. I'm an extension specialist with West Virginia University. And then some of my teammates who are also on the My Hometown is Cool project are here: Michael Dover, Daniel Eads, and David Roberts. So we're going to share with you a little bit today about the My Hometown is Cool project. Next slide. Okay, so My Hometown is Cool is a state initiative that developed as a fun way to work to engage youth in our asset-based community development efforts and to pull in some entrepreneurial thinking. So there are two components. One is a lesson series designed for kids aged in 6th through 12th grade, and the second is a statewide pitch competition. And the lesson series is actually what won the NACDEP Award for Educational Materials. Next slide. So this project is possible to echo many of the presenters before, a lot of cross collaboration. Within WVU Extension, we had collaboration from the Family and Community Development Unit and the 4-H and Youth Development Unit, but we also partnered with our College of Business and Economics, our innovation centers, the West Virginia Health Science Technology Academy, which serves 800 kids across the state and high school, the WVU Student Media Association, and numerous other public and private sponsors. And I will just mention, because I see the slide accidentally has the UF logo on the bottom right, that we have not yet collaborated with UF, but we would love to do that in the future. Next slide. All right, so a couple quick things we wanted to share with you all about West Virginia. We like to just start with sharing some assets about our state that we work in. So on the top left is a bridge that's in Fayetteville, West Virginia, which hosts Bridge Day every year, which is the largest extreme sports event in the United States. On the bottom left, there's a telescope from the Green Bank Observatory that is part of the federal radio astronomy system. In the middle, we have a logo from Mon Forest Towns, which is an initiative that my colleague Daniel that's on here today is working on, that brings together a host of small communities across the state to bring in tourism and people in to experience some of our awesome opportunities for hiking, biking, skiing, and other outdoor rec. On the top right, we have a pepperoni roll because we invented the pepperoni roll in West Virginia. And on the bottom right, we have a picture of the Mothman, because if you've heard of the Mothman, you might not realize that it is from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where there's still a Mothman festival every year. Next slide. So why it matters. When we begin our community development work, if we start by looking at the need in a community, it can quickly become overwhelming. A lot of the statistics are startling, and in rural communities, by focusing on those statistics, it quickly paints a picture, a very bleak picture of massive need, massive and overwhelming need. And this paired with what we know are limited resources and limited capacity to change those things can leave people in a place of hopelessness, and really have communities considering where are they going to apply these scarce resources to make a difference in this overwhelming need. So the end result of starting with a needs focus can be that our communities continue to live behind this wall of massive unmet need while they try their best to kind of address them little by little. Next slide. So alternately, with My Hometown is Cool, our goal is to take the capacity focused development approach. So we begin by discussing what assets are available in rural communities, and then ideas for building upon those. By engaging youth, we get a really unique perspective of that local youth opinion on what makes their hometown cool, what they currently have, and what opportunities kids see for growth or expansion of those things in their communities. And by starting with assets, we come from a hopeful and positive place that focuses on what we can build and what we can do with what we have. Next slide. So My Hometown is Cool. The lesson series is a 4-lesson series. We delivered it to roughly 850 students in West Virginia so far, largely through our partnership with the West Virginia Health Science Technology Academy. It can be taught in person or virtually. It was originally designed to be taught in person, but we had to pivot in COVID times and make it available virtually as well. And we have pre-recorded lessons with pause points for facilitators to engage youth in discussions that are available for youth for use. And through these 4 lessons, kids really go through the process of first identifying what makes their hometown cool and creating a community seal during an art project. They learn the community capitals framework, and they take a kind of a deeper dive into what assets their community has in each of those areas. And then they do some ideation and brainstorming using the Lean Canvas model. And then finally, they learn how to make an elevator pitch for an idea that they want to share, and then practice sharing that idea with others. Next slide. So in addition to the lesson series, we also ran a statewide pitch competition, and teams of students, 2 or more students, were invited to submit 3-minute videos that shared with us what makes their hometown cool and one idea for making their hometown cooler. And 4 winning teams were awarded $2,500 mini grants to turn their project idea into reality in their hometown. Next slide. So if you'd like more information, I have our contact information here on the slide. And then we also included the link to the website about the My Hometown is Cool project. If you'd like to learn more, or if you're interested in having a project in your home state, please feel free to explore and contact us for more information. That link will also let you see 4 of the videos that the kids submitted. So you can kind of see an example of the ideas that the students came up with and submitted to us.
Nice. Thank you so much, Lauren. That's awesome. Woohoo!
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have Ryan, I believe.
Hello.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. So then we go to the next slide. So I'll be talking about the Sidewalk Subway, which was a placemaking project that we did last year in Cynthiana in central Kentucky. So on the next slide. So as I said, my name is Ryan. I'm with the University of Kentucky with the Department of Landscape Architecture and Aesthetic. And so my job is really to position, design, and planning as economic development in rural communities across Kentucky, primarily in Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia, but really to try and figure out what's really cool and unique about different communities, and how to try and magnify that as kind of fundamental to kind of investing in place, investing in people, and trying to magnify that in communities with very little, either minimal capacity or minimal financial resources. So on the next slide. So the Sidewalk subway is an example of a project that came up in kind of one community and didn't take there. And so then I added it to my Rolodex to kind of figure out, knowing that it'll be appropriate somewhere else. And so originally kind of came up while working in Harlan in kind of the heart of coal country as an idea to really try and connect the different unique features and destinations within downtown in a kind of different, unique way. So it didn't really take there. And so, as I said, I kind of put my Rolodex, and then as, you know, that initially when COVID hit, and then we all kind of, you know, sheltered in place at home. And then as things began to open up in the summer of 2020, we were approached by the Harrison County Community Foundation to work in Cynthiana in kind of north central Kentucky, which has, I think, 6,400 people, to do some sort of COVID relief. And so what we did after we met with people and they talked about how they have all these different walking tours, they wanted to encourage people to come downtown to celebrate all those unique qualities of Cynthiana, but to do it in a really safe way, in a distance way, but in a way to kind of get people outside, get people walking and experiencing their downtown in a new way. And so that's where all of a sudden this, you know, idea came up of, oh, we have this cool project and program that's pretty much ready to go that we can pilot here. And there's some, like everywhere, there's some cool things. Like this mural here is of The Walking Dead, because the guy who created The Walking Dead and wrote it is from that community. And so it's really interesting to always find those really unique quirks of a place and really try to celebrate them. And so as we kind of came up with this, you know, worked through this idea, they had existing walking tours from churches, for downtown businesses, for murals, et cetera. And so it was really easy then to kind of take all those kind of separate walking tours and try to amalgamate them into one different program. They also had a pocket park in the heart of their downtown that their main street operates. And so they really wanted to get people to, you know, to raise awareness about that and to get people to actually start using that space. And so on the next slide. So what we really did is combined all of those walking tours into one map, and we wanted to try and figure out then the safest way to navigate through downtown with these different routes. And so through some trial and error, what we decided on was to, we laser cut circles into pieces of cardboard. And then each route would have a different color. And so what was really cool about this program and seeing people respond to it is it took this really urban idea of a metro maps like the Tube in London or the New York subway, and then kind of overlaid it onto a rural community. So it's kind of fun to see people surprised to see this really iconic graphic or concept overlaid onto a smaller rural community. And so we took the same principles where each line has a different color. And so here you can see them spray painting circles along the route. So once you go to the pocket park, which we then sort of branded as East Central Station, if you wanted to go to a mural tour, you then follow the green dots. Or if you want to go on the Main Street Mile, you follow the purple. So then it was really easy to kind of pick what color you wanted based on your specific interest. And then you could do that route. And so it was a quite, it's a pretty simple program to do and to execute. And it's, the hardest part was actually figuring out how many bottles of spray paint we need, trying to figure out each length. We had originally wanted to do those really nice kind of vinyl circles that put on the sidewalk, but that would have ended up being too much money. And so by spray painting, it's also very temporary. And so the circles are already gone and they've been replicated. And so it's a way to try something out and to pilot it and to see kind of what works and what doesn't work. And so this was done in partnership with the city and with local stakeholders. I don't advocate just going out and doing things in the middle of the night, but if you were, you could use just spray paint chalk, and that way it'd be gone next couple of weeks, a month, as a hyper temporary solution. On the next slide. So this is a copy of that map. And so as you can see, we have the kind of the central station as the kind of red or black triangular, kind of in the middle left. And then from there, the different routes take off. And so then it was really easy for people to follow it. And then we had these graphics as well that we made into a trifold brochure that was in the pocket park as well. So not only was that kind of, again, that iconic graphic that you picture with London overlaid onto a small community, but it made it really simple and people sort of inherently understand how to use these types of these maps and how to use these types of graphics. And I would say creating this map is the hardest part of this program. But if you have someone with kind of a minimal amount of Adobe Illustrator experience, then it'd be something that'd be easy enough to pull together. And the total cost of this was about $500. And so that it is quite a simple and affordable program to be able to do and implement in your community. On the next slide. Well, there we go. Now you get to draw it with your own imagination. So there we go. So I'll drop a link to this in the chat, but we also have, as you can see on the right here, a quick little how-to guide that we've pulled together of how to do this in your own community, because almost every place I've worked in has walking tours of different varieties and depths. And so it's a lot of this just building upon what's already there. And to really try and celebrate those unique characteristics and those quirks that really make each community special and unique in their own way. And so I'll put that link in there. I have my email address there as well, if anyone has any questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. All right. Let's move on to, I was thinking we had a couple more, but maybe not. I think we might be at Q&A a little earlier than we had planned. So you guys really marched through those quickly. I would advocate taking a break now. We had a 15-minute break that was on the schedule, but so we'll do a Q&A right now. So all those questions that you've saved, and then after that, we'll take a break a little early. So I would like to open up for Q&A, and I've got Emily is working on the chat, and we also, feel free to unmute yourself and share and ask any questions. All of the presenters are still on the call, so feel free to direct your call directly to the presenter. Any questions for our presenters? And I can go back to any of those slides of interest as well if you have questions.
Okay, we have a question. Miigwech, Ramona. This is for Dwayne. Please remind me how you funded the stipends for your program.
So generous sponsorships and grants. And so right now we're funded by the Missouri Foundation for Health for 2 years. So next year we have to find additional funding, but Missouri Foundation for Health, Deaconess Foundation, UMSO, University of Missouri Extension, some partners at St. Louis Economic Development Partnership have all funded us over the years. But the last 2 years it was Missouri Foundation for Health. So we go after grants.
All right, thank you. And
Could I see from the entrepreneurial community, the slide right before community process again? It was like a wheel that was only up shortly.
Which one again? I'm sorry.
The one entrepreneurial communities.
Entrepreneurial communities, okay.
It was the first, second. No, not that. It was
Was that Parker,
You had
John?
the 8 components of an entrepreneurial community, and you had a graphic that showed them. like a wheel.
The different characteristics.
Yeah.
Yeah, go forward, Melinda, maybe 1, 2, maybe 3. Next one. Yes, those.
It was the one right before this one.
Okay.
No, the one right before this.
Okay.
That's it. That wheel, that's the one that I wanted to see. So, all right.
Oh, the wheel. Okay. There's a bit of a delay.
Oh, and you moved, and it's moved away from it again for me.
So do you have a question on that, Jen?
I'm trying to get a screen capture of that because it's a really good.
Oh,
And
I could send that to you.
Yeah, we'll definitely send out the slides too, so don't worry too much. But if you do have a question around it, feel free to pitch it. Or if Marilyn wants to give a little insight.
Yeah, just where we came up with those 8 characteristics, we did a lot of literary research looking into what entrepreneurial communities possess as that culture, as those bases, and came up with these different characteristics that we ground truth with 6 pilot communities, and have been pretty consistent with this as a way to help the community take a perception of themselves. And when we do the survey, we have 24 questions around these 8 characteristics. And then we give them statistical analysis of how the community perceives themselves in each one of these areas. And that's where we start that conversation as well, to help them do kind of a self-assessment of their own community.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, so Mike, I don't know if there was a link to that program. I'd like to see that link. If you could put it in chat.
We have a website. It is so in need of updating that I didn't put it on there, but I could send that to you as well. And we'd be glad to share information.
All right, we have another question. Great, and this is for Hannah from Ramona. I wanted to know if you already had an existing relationship with the correctional facility. I know you mentioned that they already had a greenhouse. Did they reach out to you for training?
Yes, that is a great question. Both parties were familiar that the other had existed, and in decades past, the correctional facility had worked with in varying capacities with different University of Florida researchers and extension agents, but there had been a significant gap in the timeline between when the program that I developed and when they had been working with some researchers, and that even when they were working with some researchers and specialists, the program, nothing was ever formalized to offer a certificate of completion or something that the girls could leave with to show some form of qualification for a job. And then something else that we did was develop a revenue enhancing partnership where both parties agreed to $2,000 for 5 days of classes for 15 women. It was mutually beneficial. And that was something that was unique compared to anything else in the past. The facility was trying to work with me for some time, but the university didn't have the programming materials to just be able to go in and teach. So I needed time to develop a 26-hour curriculum, essentially. And that took some time and some pilot programs for us to really land on something that was successful and worth investing into a revenue enhancing partnership. Great question. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And yes, it's adults over the age of 18, not juveniles, but they're all female.
Right. Any other questions for any of our presenters?
Yes, we have a question come through from Crystal, and this is to hear from all presenters or who'd like to share. She'd like to hear a few presenters share tips or words of encouragement for applying for award.
I've got one. Put the award due date on your calendar and put multiple reminders on your calendar for many weeks in advance of it. And if it's something super important, make the time. And if you just want to go for it and see how things work out, then find some spare moments and just work up a good submittal and give it a shot.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Hannah on that one. And then I'd say when you put your your materials together, be really clear about what problem you're solving, and you'll be able to relate that with why this, is a problem in your community, but then it's also likely a challenge in other places as well. Because that's one thing that we all deal with extension, especially with the land grant mission, is really embedding those resources of the university into communities, but then knowing that there is this, national, if not greater, relevance of what our work does, how it can be applied or interpreted in other communities.
And I think some of the best proposals are those that are solving a problem that others may have. So obviously that's something that we'd be sharing at our conferences. And I just think those how-to or those problem-solving kinds of presentations are particularly attractive to those who are attending conferences for sure. Other questions or thoughts about submitting awards or proposals?
This is Ryan again. The only thing I think I would add is, as you can see with my project, we were literally spray painting circles onto sidewalks. So we were hardly curing cancer or doing anything, anything like that. But everything everyone does is really cool and really unique and bring something new to the table. And so I think don't be, there's some really amazing projects, especially like the one Dwayne was doing in St. Louis, where I would look at that compared to mine, and to be honest, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to up my game a little bit. But everything is valid and has a place. And so don't be kind of intimidated by the amazing thing everyone else does, but we'll take it, interpret it, and then don't hesitate to share your work with others, because there's something that we all learn from what everyone else does.
Ryan, I loved your spray paint idea. That is absolutely something I can implement in a historic district in my community tomorrow. I loved it.
I think I know, and you may have said, but how did you get the name Sidewalk Subway?
I didn't actually say that, but it because when we first kind of came up with this idea in Harlan, it was like, okay, so if you want to connect these different places, it's almost like we need to draw a line between them. And then with these different routes, like in Harlan, we were looking at the coal piece, or like the show Justified, like how do we do a justified walking tour through downtown Harlan? And so each one of them were like, okay, so each one of them would need a different color, different theme. And then we were talking, it was like, oh, well, it's almost like a subway map. And then if we use the visitor center as a central station, everyone could go to the visitor center downtown, get their map, and then from there, everything branches out. So then it became a really kind of natural fit. Like, oh, it's like a subway route on the sidewalk. And we originally wanted to do straight lines like on the maps, but we realized how, there's no way to have a straight line going down blocks that doesn't look like you're drunk, because it's always going to have like little waves in it. That's where like, okay, but if we do circles, then there's a little more leeway, a little more give in how we do that.
That's really interesting. Cool. All right.
This is Marilyn. I have a question for Ryan as well. when you did this, was your sidewalk subway, was this a one-day event or a week-long event? And did you have people at each one of these stops that gave a micro tour of the building, of the facility? I didn't catch that. If you said it, I'm sorry.
No. So it took us, it was about, I'd say about 6 weeks of planning and coordinating to make sure that it really kind of fit with, what our local partners were trying to do and what they were trying to accomplish. Especially kind of late summer 2020, then it was a really kind of easy, an easy sell. And so with the actual implementation of it, my project coordinator and I went out the day before, and one of the pictures, maybe the slide before this one, we went out there and I think in the other direction. And we spray painted little dots we had a wheel that would do measures, like every 20 feet, we knew we want new circles. And so we went out the day before, I would spray paint just like little dots. That way, like you can see in between the green or the orange and the purple, there's a little green dot. And so then we went out the day before and sprayed them. That way, when we sent about 6 volunteers the morning of, we were able to send them on the merry way, because all they had to do was follow the sidewalks and see kind of where those, every time they saw like an orange dot, then they would lay over the template over that and spray paint it. So it was the day before, it was about 4 hours of 4 to 5 hours walking around and spray painting the dots and making sure we had the distances right. And the day of, I think it was about 2 hours with about 6 volunteers. And I'd say Cynthiana is a pretty, maybe touch larger than some rural downtowns, but it's not a large community by any stretch. And so once we had about half dozen folks, and it was really easy to get out there and actually do it the day of.
So I had a same question as before. Do you have a link to this? It was in your PowerPoint, but if you could put it into the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah, I believe I'd put it in the chat just after my presentation. But I could re-add that as well. And then if anyone does go to do this, if you have any questions, let me know. And then if you do it, if you know anyone that does, I absolutely love to see pictures of how it's kind of interpreted and applied elsewhere.
Nice. Lots of great ideas. All right, any more questions for presenters, tips for potential submissions? Okay. If not, it's nearly 1:45. So I suggest that we come back at 2 o'clock to finish the second part of our presentation today, where we talk about proposals, talking about awards, talking about the CD Extension Library. So take a break, but please don't go away. Come back. We've got a lot more to share, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Thanks.
Back to Ryan, 1 more minute. Ryan, if you stay on.
Yes.
I'm still looking for the link that's in your slide. It's different than the one that's a PDF.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll see if I can get that right one in then. Apologies. All right, I just put another one in the chat. Let me know if that works.
Yeah, I'm doing a historic mapping project in a town, and I like your form because there could be businesses, there could be historic assets, there's a lot of different things, and the way you've done this structure is pretty cool. So thank you.
Yeah, we had historic churches, we had all sorts of different things. It was a fun project to work on.
And that's still the PDF link that you put in on your slide. It's one that gets to something about design tools.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll get that in. That's our larger community design page. I'll get that copied in there.
Thank you.
give it one more minute as we're waiting for people to join us here. So we'll give it one more minute before we start right back up. Okay, well, hope you had a refreshing 15-minute break. Glad that you stayed with us. Promise it'll be worth it. During the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be sharing with you the process of how to submit proposals, as well as how to submit award nominations with some detail, which will hopefully be helpful for those of you who have not yet submitted. And again, there's time to do that, a week for proposals and a month for award nominations. So, and then after that, Michael Wilcox will be joining me to talk a little bit about the new CD Extension Library, which we're really excited about, and we're going to take a deeper dive into that. So let's get started. So a video has been developed, had been developed, and then has been revised with the help of lots of our NACDEP folks to be able to give you an overview of the workshop proposal do's and don'ts. So I'm going to start by sharing that. So here we go.
Thanks for joining us today for a quick recap of the do's and don'ts for a successful abstract submission to the NACDEP conference. We know you've been doing great work all year long, and we want to hear all about it. So let's dive.
Let's try that again. Here we go.
Thanks for joining us today for a quick recap of the do's and don'ts for a successful abstract submission to the NACDEP conference. We know you've been doing great work all year long, and we want to hear all about it. So let's dive in. Just remember, all of this great content was created based on a survey of former NACDEP abstract reviewers. So you're getting inside info to help you write your most successful abstract ever. And guess what? This info is also useful for other conferences that you will be submitting abstracts to. So let's move into the do's. Do be succinct. Short and sweet is always best. Plan your responses. This will save you so much time in the long run. Be relatable. Make sure you identify the conference themes and stick to them. Be replicable. We're all looking for great ideas for our own extension programs. Proofread. Always good to have an extra set of eyes, and I'm sure your colleagues will oblige. Be creative. This is what sets your abstract or project apart, so be sure to put that center stage in your submission. Share outcomes. We want to learn about what you've learned, even if you failed. This is what makes your project submission relatable. Use real-life examples. Extension folks love to talk. At least that's what everyone says. So share your story and your client's story, and your project will shine. Look at the criteria. It's always a good idea to review the scoring rubric. This will help you determine where you should spend the most time polishing your abstract. Now moving into the don'ts. Don't wait until the last minute. You hear it all the time, and it's true. You never know what might happen. So plan ahead and submit early. You can do it. Don't rely on technology. Trying to beat that 11:59 p.m. deadline might not go so well if you rely on your internet connection and portal connectivity. There's always a glitch when you least expect it. Don't cut and paste. Shortcuts are helpful, but customization is the key to success here. Don't submit for a project that's not yet done. We want to learn from you. If you haven't done it yet, we're not sure what the lessons learned might be. And most importantly, don't be afraid to try. The committee wants to read about innovative, out-of-the-box programs, so feel free to submit and check the best fit categories.
All right, so using that as a baseline, just a couple things to point out. So in the past, we've used Fast Track, if you're familiar with that, but now we use Oxford abstracts. So if you haven't, if you didn't submit last year, you may not be familiar with that. So I just wanted to point that out as well. You'll be creating a login with Oxford abstracts, and it's really important to be sure that the email that you use when you create that and that you use in that submission process is the one you want us to communicate with you. So the best thing to do really, if possible, is to use your institutional email. That really helps us as we, in the sessions committee, track through the whole process so that we don't lose anybody based on the incorrect email address or one that you don't check very frequently. You can, in Oxford, you can save partial submissions or edit complete or incomplete proposals all the way up to the deadline, which makes it nice. It's important to add all the editors from the all the authors from the beginning. We had that when we transitioned over to Oxford and the first time, and it made it a little difficult. So try to add all authors so that when we pull that into to the final form of the program that we produce, that everyone that deserves to have credit is listed there. In terms of format options, you have these choices listed here this time for the June conference in Indianapolis. 25-minute presentation, which ends up being really a 20-minute presentation with 5 minutes for Q&A, 75-minute learning workshop, 3-hour pre-conference that would be held on Sunday from 1 to 4, a 3-hour post-conference that would be held Wednesday from 1 to 4, and a poster. And posters are going to be really interesting this year. Where you're going to be able to upload a PDF of your poster to the gallery that's basically located within Oxford Abstracts, and then it will be physically projected onto the screens in each of the rooms that we have set aside for poster sessions. So we'll have a live poster gallery. Your poster will be on a screen in the room physically, but it will all live online through Oxford Abstracts to be able to allow some longevity and give us multiple ways to interact with it. So wanted to make you aware of that. And the nice part about that is there's no printing the poster, there's no lugging the poster on the airplane. So if you're interested in a poster, this might be the year for you, because it could be very interesting trying that format. All right, so something else important to point out. It will be a firm deadline. We absolutely promise. We are not going to come back on January 18th and say you have a few more days. There will not be a few more days. We have made a commitment as a board, a commitment as a conference committee, and a commitment as a sessions committee that there will not be an extension. So we really are relying on you to make sure that you submit a proposal this year. We really want to have some great submissions for a great live conference. We've missed each other after several years. It'll be great to get together, and we want to make sure that we have a lot to showcase. So we're counting on you to come through and submit by the 19th. So you've got another week here. This is the, in fact, I don't know if somebody that's listening from sessions committee might be able to drop this link into the chat, but if you could, that would be great. This is this also you got through an e-blast from NACDEP that gives you basically the link directly to be able to submit. So if you have, you should have seen this because it came to the entire membership, but we're also going to drop this in the chat for you as well before the end of this session. All right, so Chris is the chair of the sessions committee. And if you have any questions about the proposal process, or anything at all, she's she's the guru of all that is sessions. So feel free to contact her, and that's her information. All right, so Katie Hoffman, who's our Western region rep, and also a part of the Awards and Recognitions Committee, has put together a video for us about the awards process. And then after that, Eric and Tamara, who are chairs of the Awards and Recognition Committee, will be sharing some information with us as well. So we're gonna listen to this awards video first. Before we move on to this, are there any questions about proposal submissions or anything that you'd like to ask about the first part? And I think that link just went in the chat. So thank you very much, Sessions Committee. Great. Okay, hearing no questions, I'm going to continue on, and we're going to listen to the process for submitting NACDEP awards. Here we go.
My name is Katie McFarland, and I am your Western Regional NACDEP representative, as well as a member of the awards committee. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to submit an award application packet. Let's get started on our NACDEP webpage. On the home page, you will see we have an awards tab. Click the awards tab to begin the process. We have a lot of information included on this page, so please read it carefully. You'll see first listed at the top is the day the applications are due. Please note that and submit them in a timely manner. Next, before you submit, there's several items you need to be aware of. First, your packet should not be bigger than 3 pages total. To be clear, that includes 1 page that is your cover page. We include a template that I'll show you later, as well as 2 pages for the narrative. Please make sure you see each individual award description for information regarding what should be in your narrative and is required for that particular award packet. Then you will save your file as award category .nominee last name. For example, educational materials .smith. Your cover page needs to be complete and included in the packet. Again, it is not a separate document. It will be included in your 3 pages as page number 1. Once you have your cover page complete and your 2 pages of narrative, you will make sure that that file is converted to a PDF and named appropriately. Please also make sure that your NACDEP membership is up to date before submission. For team awards, remember that 2/5 of the team must be NACDEP members unless you're applying for cross-program team award. Make sure to note each category's requirements in the awards description. As we look further down the page, we continue with more useful information. There's a series of links that are very important. The first is the awards description and application link. Please click and read that document. You want to make sure that you're applying for the correct award with the correct information. Each one of the awards is slightly different. Make sure that you're looking at the updated awards description and not using last year's. Sometimes there are changes. Now, we've talked a little bit about the cover sheet template. I'm going to show you what that looks like. The cover sheet template that you can access by clicking the link and downloading as a Word document and then filling out on the web page looks like this. You'll begin your cover sheet, again with a 1-page page limit, with your person nominating. You can self-nominate for several of the awards categories, so please make sure you read the awards descriptions. If you are not the person that is being nominated, but the person filling out the packet, your name and email and institution goes here. Secondly is the awards category. Make sure that you note the name of the award category correctly. Third is your team or individual identification. Several of the awards, such as communication, may have a team or an individual award category. Make sure that you are applying in the appropriate category. You will include the title of your program or initiative, and then you will have a table like shown below and is formatted in the template that you can download with the name, institution, and NACDEP membership status of each person being nominated. If it's a team, you will have several names. If it's an individual, you will just have one. Please make sure that you spell out the institution and you do not use initials. The final piece of the cover page is your 50-word abstract. This will be used in the award script that will be presented at the award ceremony. Please make sure that it's something clear and concise, but gives someone with no understanding of the award an idea of what your program is all about. Okay, that's page 1 of all of your application packets. Next page is 2 and 3. These are where your narrative will be shown in your packet. Please refer again to the award descriptions to make sure you're including in your narrative all the necessary pieces that are required for that award. So for example, in our sample nomination packet, you can see they include background, purpose, efforts for diversity, significant change, as well as methods to continue and promote retention. Please refer to each individual award description for what should be included in your 2-page narrative and do not exceed 2 pages. Back to our NACDEP award page. As you can see, the Coversheet Template link is listed here for you to download and use to develop page 1 of your packet. Following that is the sample nomination packet link to the nomination packet I just showed you. Below that is last year's award video. It's a great reference if you're looking for ideas of programming you might have that might qualify for different award categories. Next is the most important piece, your nomination portal links. Here is where you will upload all of your material to be eligible for review. Now there is an individual tab, team award tab, and distinguished career or distinguished service awards. Please make sure that you are using the correct portal with your correct packet. Before you click on any of these links, again remember that your cover sheet, 2 pages of narrative, are saved as a single PDF document, and it is named with your award category, period, nominee, last name, and then you're ready to upload. You simply click on the link for individual, team, or distinguished career, and you will be taken to your application page that looks like this. Now, this is similar to the cover page with the beginning with your nominator information. So if you are not the person who is being nominated for the award, but you are nominating someone else, your information goes here. If you are self-nominating, your information would go here as well. So name, last name, and email. Anything marked with a red asterisk is required for submission. Now we're on to your nominee's information. Please select the individual award category that you're applying to. Next, enter your program or initiative title. Again, that should match the program title that's in your cover sheet in your 3-page packet. You will also put the name and last name of your nominee here. The phonetic spelling is important if it's a name that may be hard to announce live at the awards ceremony. Then you spell out the university of your nominee. Please, again, do not use initials. You need to select your NACDEP region. This is important because awards are judged regionally as well as nationally. You will include the nominee's state, their email, their supervisor or director's name, as well as their supervisor's or director's email. Please then confirm your nominee's membership. Now we get to the part where we talked about our packet before. We will upload our single PDF to this program before we hit submit. So what you need to remember again is you will have 1 cover page and 2 pages of narrative. So 3 pages total saved as a single PDF named award category dot nominee's last name. Now make sure that you check all these boxes before uploading your document and submitting. Do you meet the 3-page limit? Do you contain 1 page that's the cover page? Do you include no more than 2 pages of narrative? Has your file been converted to a PDF, and have you named it correctly? If you can check all of those boxes, you're then ready to upload your file. If you can't, make changes so that you follow each one of these requirements. Failure to follow these requirements will disqualify your packet from review. Once you're ready, you'll upload the file by selecting the file saved on your computer, and it will show that it's been downloaded to this web page, and then you click Submit. It's really pretty simple to submit a correct award packet. If you have any questions, you can always contact any member of the awards committee or your local regional rep, and they'd be happy to help you. I hope this makes this easier, and I wish everyone good luck with successful award packet submission.
All right. So a special thanks to Katie for making that video for all of us. And the reason that she was so fastidious in going over each one of those rules is because it's amazing how many times just one or two things throws a packet out of consideration. So I think it's a good overview and really appreciate that. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric at this point, who's co-chair of our Awards and Recognition Committee, to talk to us a little bit about each one of these award categories and a description of each and what they entail. Eric?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights after that really thorough video from Katie. So if you're not familiar with the awards, or as a reminder, if you are, these are the list of awards that NACDEP gives out every year. The Excellence in Community Development Work Award is given to both an individual and team each year to recognize a NACDEP member or group of members for outstanding programs in any aspect of community development work. The Cross Program Award, again, both individual and team, recognizes a NACDEP member or group of members for excellence in extension work that combines or integrates community resource and economic development activities with work in other program areas. The Educational Materials Awards recognizes a member or group who have developed outstanding materials that educate through credible, accurate, and concise information. The Educational Technology Awards go to a member or a team for the use of technology, delivering or managing educational programs, expanding the use of technology in community development work, or the use of educational technology to promote problem-solving techniques. The NACDEP Innovation and Creativity Awards recognize a member or team who have developed an outstanding effort or program integrating innovation and creativity in community development program design or implementation, and then demonstrating effectiveness. The Diversity Awards recognize a member or team who developed an outstanding effort or program ensuring meaningful diversity and inclusion. And then the Excellence in Teamwork Award recognizes outstanding extension programming or projects conducted by a team that involves an NACDEP member or group of members and demonstrates effective performance and results. And so those awards all accept self-nominations, as was mentioned. So you're free to nominate yourself or a team that you're part of. And as always, you can nominate a deserving colleague as well. These next three awards don't accept self-nominations. So you have to, if you're the one being nominated, someone else has to make the nomination, or you can nominate a deserving colleague. And there are some additional eligibility details beyond what's required of the other awards. So for these last three, make sure when you're looking at those, check those requirements in the award. Recognizes a NACDEP member who's actively involved in service to NACDEP and contributed significantly to the organization for at least 3 years as of the year when the award is given, as of this year. The Distinguished Career Award recognizes NACDEP members who have been actively engaged in extension community development programs for more than 7 years. And the Award for Creative Excellence, sponsored by JSEP, recognizes an individual or team that demonstrates creative excellence that's adapted by others, advancing the work of development in innovative ways. And as shown in the video, you can find all the descriptions and some more details on the requirements on the NACDEP website under awards. So if we want to go on to the next slide. So again, for most of the awards, you can nominate yourself or somebody else. Just make sure to see the award requirements to make sure that enough of your team are current NACDEP members. There's that 2/5 of the team requirement, with the exception of community development work. And then just that reminder that the Distinguished Career and Distinguished Service Awards and Creative Excellence can't be self-nominated, and that for the Distinguished Career Award, there can only be one submission per land-grant institution. Next slide. So this is just, again, who's eligible for nominations, current members at time of nomination. If you're doing a team award, at least 2/5 of the team must be members, again, except for that cross program. award. You can submit separate applications for each category, and they really should be efforts that are within the last calendar year. And then the same program can't be submitted for multiple categories. So don't go trying to submit your one program for 5 different categories. And then the focus there on community, regional, state, and national acts. And similarly to, and then the awards are given at regional and national level. So you could win a regional award, and then there's the national winners as well. We can go to the next slide. And this is just that reminder, before you submit, make sure that your submission meets the criteria. For most awards, that's no more than 3 pages total. Again, 1 of those being the cover page, 2 pages being the narrative. Make sure that it's saved as a PDF. Make sure that the file name structure is correct. Make sure your membership's up to date. And just, we've been saying these requirements a lot. That's just a reminder that these aren't like guidelines of things we'd like to see in proposals. These are actual requirements for your submission to be cleared. So you'd hate to miss out on a chance at an award because you didn't follow the directions that are in the application. The next slide, please.
I was going to mention too, Eric, sorry, right before we leave this one, this idea of the NACDEP membership being up to date. There is a grace period in play. So I just wanted to point out that if you were a 2021 NACDEP member, that will transfer over until the time of conference registration, which is March 1st. So that should carry you through award submission. Just didn't want you to think that if you hadn't re-upped yet and you were waiting for a conference that you couldn't apply, because you can.
All right, so here's a reminder of our awards submission date, and I'll put the link in the chat. If you want to just go right there and check out that page where there's, again, all the information that Katie shared in the video. Make sure you get those awards in. Similarly to program submissions, don't wait till the last minute to try and submit, just because you don't want to. And then I think the next slide is just Tamara and my contact information. If you have any questions for us, we're co-chairs of the recognition committee. Feel free to reach out to us. In the regional meetings later, there'll be at least someone from the recognition committee in all the regional meetings. So if there are more questions and you want to spend more time on that there, those members will also be available.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate that. Any questions for Eric? All right, you can always put questions later on about anything that might pop into your mind into the chat, and Emily's watching our chat for questions as well. So, all right, moving on then, I would like to invite Michael Wilcox to join us and talk to us a little bit about the CD Extension Library. I'm going to stop sharing so that he can start sharing. While we're transitioning with that, wanted to let you know that also Zach Kennedy has been from the University of Illinois Extension, has been very helpful in this process as well and critical to its success. And so I'm not sure if Zach was actually able to join us or not today, but wanted to recognize him and his contributions as well. So Michael, take it away.
Sure. I won't take too long. Zach has been playing a key role. This group started quite a while ago. Gary Taylor was one of the original members from Iowa State. And Ann Silvis is one of the original members as well, and Tanya Hall and Tamara Ogle from Purdue. This was work that started at NACDEP. We had 2 post conferences at 2 different NACDEP conferences back in the day when we could see each other face to face. And from that, we received funding from the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development when it was at Michigan State under the leadership of Mark Skidmore right before transition to Purdue. And so we're thankful to the NCR-CRD and to Mark for the resources that he provided to us to finish this off, and then to the leadership of Maria Marshall, the new director of the NCR-CRD, and her continued support of the of the library. So I'll just get right to it. I don't want to take too much of your time. Many of you know about the library, but I wanted to go ahead and share with you what it looks like. So here we go. Can you see it, Melinda?
Yes, we can see it, no problem.
Great. So here's the Community Development Extension Library. It's under cdextlibrary.org. And in doing this, over time, we wanted to make sure that we had I guess, a conceptual framework to follow. And see, we wound up following the phase planning model. And so you can see here that we recognize through the conversations that we were having with community development extension professionals across the United States, that there was some shared aspects of the work that we do. The community capitals is one way that we have a shared aspect, but this phase planning model is another aspect as well, where many of our programmings have one or more of these pieces in our programming. So that might be initiating and scoping, it might be organizing, assessing, visioning and planning, implementing and evaluating and reflecting. We can think of many programs that come to mind within community development that have all of these. And then we have some that are solely focused on one or two of them. And so when we went out and explored what was initially out there, we inventoried about 100 different programs across the United States and saw that many of these programs had pieces that fell into each of these. And so the nice thing is, since we're going with this model of the phase planning model, for new educators, folks that are trying to brush up, or folks that are starting a new program, we start off with what the concept is, questions to ask yourself, questions to ask the community, and check out questions to make sure that you're in sync with community expectations. And so this is a great way, even if you're not using anything else in the community development extension library, this phase planning model is a great way to really familiarize yourself with the process of processes associated with community development and how you can marry that with the discipline of community development, all the great content that we have. Within the library, we have the resources broken down by topics: business development, community health, community planning, resilience and sustainability, community-based economic development, human capacity building, inclusive processes and engagement, natural resources, organizational development, and planning processes. And these were actually derived from some of the from the NACDEP archives when we looked at how we were positioning our paper proposals for NACDEP. And so we went back and looked at like a decade's worth of proposals, requests for proposals, and we distilled out of all of those different topics these areas. And so thinking about the work that you do as a community development extension professional, I'm sure at least one or more of these really, you think to yourself, yeah, I fit in here, I fit in there, I'm doing work in several of these. And so we want to make it easy for people to be able to find things. And so we have the topics, but you can also search the resource library by keywords, content type, the phase of the phase planning model. You can look at institution, and you can look at access, which is fee for use, no cost with an email, or the materials are immediately available. And so it's very easy to use. You can search resources. Let's just put in community for something fun. And you can search resources, and then you can see that everywhere where community shows up, we have these different resources that are available, and we're receiving new resources all the time. We triage those resources as a group of librarians, if you will, and then we go ahead and upload those. And we're usually checking on a monthly basis to see what was submitted. Then we go through the triage process, and then we go ahead and work with the authors to upload those. So you can see that there's a wide variety of different curricula and resources that are available here. And this is a great opportunity for you, whether you're a grizzled veteran such as myself, or a newbie who's just starting out in community development as a community development extension professional. It's a great opportunity for you to go ahead and dig into the library. As we mentioned, everyone, the library is only as strong as the materials that are in it. We're sort of in the beginning stages of developing the library in terms of filling the shelves. And so we're hopeful after this presentation and then after NACDEP in June, everyone will be really excited about uploading their materials and investing the time to do so, so everyone has access to the great work that you're doing across the United States. We recognize that there are some complementary efforts going on through e-extension and some other places, but this is a joint venture between the regional rural development centers, all 4 of them, NIFA through the funding that they provided to the NCRCRD, and NACDEP. So while we don't have a journal per se, we do have the library, and we feel like we have ownership over this. You can see NIFA, NACDEP, and the regional center there. And so this is ours being the collective hours between NACDEP and the regional rural development centers. And we encourage all of you to submit materials to the library. And Melinda's telling me to be quiet like she always does. I'm kidding.
No, I'm celebrating. Woohoo! We have a library. It's a happy thing.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Michael?
Michael.
Yes, dear.
Hi, honey.
How are you?
Yeah, we have company. Unless I zoned out, how do I add to your library?
Aha. Thank you for asking, Joy. The check is in the mail. If we go back, and I probably didn't show you, up here in the right-hand corner, it says submit resource. And when you submit, when you click on that, you get to another submit resource button, and it takes you to a basically a Google Doc that Zach Kennedy, because he's our whiz kid on this, he developed this, and you basically answer the questions and upload the materials. And then we on the back end take those, and that's where the triaging comes in, and we go ahead and then create the web page based on what you've added to this. So it's fairly easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Good question, Joy. Other questions? Hopefully you'll have a lot of submissions coming up after this lovely complete explanation of how to upload and also search the library.
That's our hope, and our hope also is that since you as the author, your contact information is there, that you'll be able to interface with the people that are actually using your resources, and that you'll be able to follow up with them and have a two-way conversation in terms of how well the resources were received, some tweaks or updating that you might want to do, and maybe the impacts as well. So we want this to be of a benefit to the authors as well as the people using them. So it's something that when I started out, I wish existed. You know, but then again, I started when you were borrowing people's 35mm slides. And so we're to a point now where we can actually share these things readily and have it be out there for everyone. And that's the idea, is to share our collective wisdom and help impart that so others can use it as well and benefit from it.
And our NACDEP board has been working really hard to build our data to the point that we can complement this with a directory of our membership, so that you'll have the programs and the people to be able to connect with at any time when it comes to community development work. So working on that, trying to make that happen. All right.
And Melinda, we have a comment from Brian stating they are working to place mentoring tools and place them on the website, adding that to the library.
Nice. Great. That's awesome. Okay. Any other thoughts about the library or questions? All right. Well, I appreciate everyone participating, engaging with this, and hopefully you've learned something. We're about to, at 3 o'clock, we have our regional meetings that are coming up. So our regional reps are ready, set, go, ready to put their links to their regional meetings in the chat. They've already been sent out to you via email, but they will also be in the chat in just a moment. So you've got about 15-20 minutes here that you can take a break and then come back and join your regional meeting. Hopefully get some more inspiration there and connect about ideas. I know each one of your regional reps has been really excited about these meetings and has great plans for how to facilitate it and how to get the most benefit out of it for you. So hopefully you can join that. And anything else for the good of the cause before we end? If not, I wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. And may all your programming, projects, your research, and your publishing shine brightly in 2022.